the story so far. We always begin in the beginning, and this story, of course, has a beginning, but as you know, the beginning is not truly the story. The beginning is just how you get into the story, because it's a story that is not about how things came to be. It's a story about a promise. It's a story about a promise made by God to a person, and then that promise extends to a people, and then to all people, and to creation itself. And then that promise extends and goes further than a promise to be with. It demonstrates a relationship of obedience, that the people are obedient to God and God will be with them. But it also goes the other way, that obedience of God to the people, demonstrating that God's presence is there. And then we shift from the Hebrew scriptures to the Greek scriptures, what we call the Old Testament, into the New Testament. And we see that thing that happens, that being with, that presence that came with the promise and obedience, is extended to relationship. It's about the relationship of the people to God and the God to the people, but then also the relationship to one another. It's not just about God. It's about how we are with each other. That's the story so far. Epistles is a funny word, but it simply means letters, because that's what they are. These are letters. Most of them are written by Paul, though not all. Some of them are written by others like Peter or James or disciples of Paul. And then there are a few that are written by people pretending to be Paul. So what is it when we read these letters? Well, there's something about this that distracts us, because we hear them and we think again of this as Holy Scripture. And it sounds like this is what God is telling us to do. There's a way in which, again, this is missing the forest for the trees. Focusing on these elements are like focusing and fixating on a particular tree instead of the forest. So, what is the story? What is revealed about the story? If we think about it, we can think about these stories, these letters, as part of the story, in the same way that a historian looks at letters by famous people, or anthropologists are able to pore through letters. They're not doing that to just look at the detail. They're doing that to help understand the story. How does this fit into the bigger story? So for us, as we're trying to figure out the story, we read these letters and we can look at how they fit into the pattern, how they fit into the larger picture. And we remember that they're letters written by people to particular people about particular things. So in that, we're able to sort of help see the bigger story, right? We don't just have to see this as, here's what we would do if we were in their shoes. It's actually a lot bigger than that. We're able to see something more significant. And in that way, the epistles serve an interesting purpose: to interpret and practice what's already known. Because if we think about this, there's something about these letters written in the 40s or 50s or 60s in many of the cases. Not the 1950s, but the 50s. So when we're not just having to translate from the Greek into English, we're translating from the 50s into the 20-teens and 20s, right? So there's been this huge change in how we would understand them. So instead of focusing on the details, let's focus on the bigger picture. That these are people who were inheriting a story. They had an experience with Jesus, following Jesus, or following the people who followed Jesus. And they took that and had to figure out how to live. They had to interpret the life of Jesus, interpret their tradition, interpret all that they knew about their faith, and figure out how to turn that into something they could practice. That is the ongoing picture, right? Life after Jesus' death has been about how to interpret his life and death and how to practice and live that out today. And so these letters serve to show the picture of the story that happens after Jesus and after that place. And we're able to sort of build into that bigger picture of why we're here, right? And that place is to be in relationship to God and one another. And the epistles help us understand how we connect in, how we are able, like they, to try and best understand how to practice faith in our day.